Hello and welcome everyone back to another backlog review. I'm Hat Top Gaming, and here today we are reviewing Mafia 3 Definitive Edition on PC. But not just any PC, we played this game through the Xbox Rogue Ally X. That's right, that device the Xbox released, that's a PC handheld gaming system. That's where I played this, and that's how we're going to review it today. So just like with any of my other reviews, we're going to go over story, gameplay, and performance, and then giving the game a rating out of 10 to see whether or not you should buy it. Also, side note, for those of you who are new to the channel or those of you who are coming back, as you guys may know, this channel is a Steam Deck channel. We review games solely playing them on the Steam Deck. But of course, this is on the Xbox Rogue Ally X, like I said. The reason for that is because Mafia 3 Definitive Edition is completely unbroken and unplayable on Steam Deck. There have been supposed workarounds, but none of them that I found online actually worked, so I was completely unable to play this on the Steam Deck. Hence why we're playing it on the Xbox Rogue Ally X, and from what I understand, the game does not run because of a Linux-specific issue that they just never fixed. The Xbox Rogue Ally X, being a Windows device, does not have that same issue, but this is just me guessing from what I read online. I don't know what the actual issue is, but anyways, with that being said, let's get begin. So starting off with the story of Lincoln Clay, you are Lincoln Clay. You grew up in an orphanage after your mother abandoned you and you don't know who your father is. You grew up in the Hala, which is basically the ghetto of this New Orleans, fake New Orleans town. And then you grow up, you decide, I don't want to be around here anymore. You join the war efforts in Vietnam. You end up becoming a CIA asset over there. So, of course, that leads to you getting extensive advanced training, and you also meet your partner in crime over there in John Donovan, who is a big key member of how you end up doing what you do. So when you come back to the Hala, you end up meeting with everyone else. You have plans to go to California as you don't care to be in New Bordeaux, which is the town in which this game takes place in. Once you find out that they're having trouble with the black mob, you decide, okay, let me get involved and see what I can do. One thing leads to another and you get involved with the Italian Mafia. From there, you end up having to do a job to rob the Federal Reserve there in New Bordeaux. And despite some hiccups along the way, the heist is successful. You come back, you guys are splitting the money, everyone's celebrating, and the Italian mob turns on you and kills everyone, including Lincoln Clay, they thought. He survives, though, goes into a coma for a few weeks. When he wakes up, though, he ends up recruiting John Donovan to help him take down the Italian mob, and Sal Marcano, the head of the Italian mob in New Bordeaux. Do this by first recruiting Cassandra, the head of the Haitian gang, Burke, head of the Irish mob, and of course, Vito Scaletta, who has his own little crew going down there, but he's being boxed in, so he wants out anyways. And all the while, you have John Donovan wiretapping the entire city to get as much intel and information as he can to help you take down the Italian mob. How do you do this, though, actually? Well, you go district by district, racket by racket, taking them all down, taking down the capos and the other sub-bosses of the Italian mob in New Bordeaux before you finally have to capture Sal Marcano himself and his son, Georgie. But that's the story, and of course, it's also the biggest controversy behind Mafia 3, a big reason why people were not a fan of this game. This being the third mainline Mafia game, coming off of Mafia 2 with Vito Scaletta, it was nice to see him return, but Lincoln Clay is not a mob member, and yes, you're going after the Italian mob, but the previous two games are all about being in the mob. So it was a very big issue back then, and I do understand now why. I kind of get it a bit more after having played this game. Here's my biggest note. I think this game is good for what it is, but I don't think it's a good Mafia game. And I think that's something a lot of people have said, but when the story is just Lincoln Clay and there's all this extra talk about racism and civil rights and yada yada yada, it takes away from what Mafia is supposed to be, in my opinion. Whether this is your introduction to the Mafia games or you're coming off of Mafia 2 and Mafia 1 possibly, this is not what you wanted. This is not what you would expect. So this being what it was, I'm not surprised that it rubbed people the wrong way when it came out, and I understandably get that. It's like, for me, it's almost like watching the first Megan movie and then you get Megan 2. It's like, this is not what I asked for. This is not what I was supposed to get. So people were rightfully upset about it. But enough about that, let's talk about the gameplay. And the biggest hiccup, I would say, is that they made this an open world experience, and it really didn't need to. There's not a lot of NPCs, there's not a lot of cars out on the road, there really isn't a whole lot going on. The way they did this, though, is because when you're going after the rackets that you do, you get to basically choose how to go after them. You basically have to destroy them by, taking down 90k worth of stuff before, like, the sub-boss comes out, and then you can go after them themselves. So that's like the need for it, right? You get to pick out what targets you're going to go after and so on. But a lot of that just leads to a lot of unnecessary driving. There's no fast travel in this game, which can be really annoying because when you have to go from the bayou to the uptown, from the east side to the west side, it's going to take you a while to drive over there, and it just adds a lot of unnecessary playtime, which frankly, at a certain point, I got really annoyed of because I realized, like, damn, I'm going to be driving everywhere, and the missions are scattered unnecessarily, and it was just annoying. I personally really enjoyed the gunplay and overall movement this game had. The Mafia Definitive Edition release did take inspiration from this game, how they handled it. There is car combat that's very light. It's like all automated stuff. You can shoot the tires out, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But like I said earlier, when we're talking about the rackets and actually taking them down, they all play out the same. Go kill this target, go and take out this person, go destroy these things. It doesn't matter what racket you're trying to take down or what sub-boss or capo you're trying to draw out. You do so in the exact same process the entire playthrough. Lastly, now let's talk about performance on the Xbox Rogue Ally X. And I'm actually really surprised the game did not look that good. I was playing on high settings the entire time. So for those of you who don't know, on the Xbox Rogue Ally X, there's 3 different performance modes. There's 13 watts for silent, which basically is the equivalent of Steam Deck power. 17 watts for performance mode, which is about a 20% boost. And then there's turbo, which is about 35% boost compared to a Steam Deck. So I was playing on performance mode. If I played on silent mode, I would be getting between 23 to about 30 on the very rare occasion. So because of that, I chose to play in performance mode for like 90% of the playthrough. I was averaging about 35 to about 45 frames per second. If you look in the top left corner, I know it's really small. You can see my frame counter going right there. It made the experience a whole lot smoother. I did also notice a small bug. I've heard that on the Xbox Rogue Ally X, because it's a window-based device, it doesn't do great when it comes to sleep mode and then turning back on and jumping back into a game. That is very much true for this one, because anytime I booted up Mafia 3, I put it to sleep mode and came back, I was having audio issues where things were just not being heard. The sounds were not going off, and again, just overall audio issues. But that was the only real concern. The stuttering would increase a little bit, but the game as a whole had massive bugs, like constant stuttering, constant texture pop-in and pop-outs, freeze framing, frame drops. Like, it was all over the place. Like, any like minor bug you can imagine that, while it didn't break the game in any way, it just inconvenienced. They made the experience poor for it. I also do want to make note of this final thing. There is a game breaking bug where, because the game does not allow you to do manual saves, it only does auto saves. There was a bug back when I was playing 2018, 2019 or whatever on Xbox One where the autosave stopped working. So anytime I die, I would automatically get sent back into that final autosave because the game just would refuse to autosave anymore. I don't know what caused it. I thankfully did not have that issue, but the entire playthrough, I was worried that that was going to happen. Like, I'm going to die at the wrong time. If my Xbox Rogue Ally X loses power for like a second, it's going to fucking break the game, blah, blah. Thankfully, it didn't happen. And I don't know if that bug is still around, but I wanted to make note of it. So yeah, the final take I would say is that the game definitely works. It didn't age well graphically, and there's a whole lot of minor bugs all over the place, but it does not get in the way of playing the game, thankfully. So, take that for what you will. Lastly now, this being the Definitive Edition, you of course get the 3 DLCs that come with it. It's Drive Faster Baby, Signs of the Times, and I forget the other one. When it comes to gameplay wise, they all play the exact same, really. The only difference is that in the Signs of the Time, you're investigating a cult, so you do like some detective stuff, but it's very, very light stuff, and you're still just fighting enemies and all that. The most interesting one for sure, but has the most amount of driving. After that, there's Drive Faster Baby, where basically you're building up a case against a racist sheriff to take him down because he's using his corruption and political power to just assault and beat up on the black population in his town. It also has a heavy emphasis on car combat in that one. And then lastly, the one with John Donovan. You're going after a former CIA buddy of his who basically turned against the US, is now trying to deal with like nuclear weapons. So you have to go all over the place looking for people in bunkers, and he's assaulting guys by hiring mercenaries and attacking the CIA directly, which I don't even know how the hell that works, but okay. It's all about generic superhero, go take down all the bad guys like Die Hard kind of stuff. It's just a whole lot of gunfights. Drive Faster Baby and Signs of the Time both open up optional missions for you to do afterwards. One of them is allowing you to grow up your own weed farm, which is its own like whole like little subplot thing that you can do. Just like money management, weed management, growing the stuff, better seeds, blah, blah, blah. Very simple stuff, right? Rudimentary. The other one is just bounty hunting, which, go find a target, stuff them in your trunk, bring them back to someone else. That's really all they do. Truth be told, I thought the DLCs were just fine and dandy. They weren't anything to write home about, but I thought they were good for what they were. It's just a question of whether or not you will have a personal interest in completing them. But with all that being said, dear viewer, we are at the end of the video, so now it is time to give a final conclusion on what we thought of Mafia 3 and give you my recommendation as to whether or not you should spend your time playing it and or buying it. So after 26 hours of playing, 41 of 85 achievements gathered along the way, and of course, like I said, playing the DLCs, what did I think at the end? I would think this game deserves a solid 7 out of 10. I think this game is the pinnacle of 7 out of 10s. I think this game has enough there to warrant a playthrough. I think there's enough there that I personally enjoyed, and while the bugs and all that there were definitely annoying for sure, they really didn't get in the way of me actually being able to enjoy the game. The biggest question is going to be whether or not you care for Lincoln Clay's story. There's no way around that, dear viewer. The reality is that if you want a Mafia game, you're probably better off staying with Mafia Definitive Edition or Mafia 2. Lincoln Clay's story is a very specific one. It's a one that I can imagine just does not resonate with a lot of people, either because of the fact they cannot put themselves in Lincoln Clay's shoes for obvious reasons, or the fact that they just don't care for a Mafia game that is not about the Mafia, at least not directly anyways. When it comes to the gameplay side of things, I would definitely compare this game to something along the lines of Far Cry. There's a whole lot of collectibles everywhere. The gameplay is roughly the same everywhere. You have a few different enemy types. You go to these waypoints. The way the missions play out are really similar. The biggest thing is repetitiveness. I personally enjoyed the gameplay. I personally enjoyed the gunning guys down and doing all this, random destroying stuff, blah, blah, blah. I thought it was fun enough to get to the end and look around and see like what else there was to do. I collected the hot rod and the Playboys and stuff like that, the little collectibles that I could along the way. I didn't go about collecting all of them, of course, but I found the world, the concept, the time period, and the game as a whole interesting enough to me enjoy it in the manner that I did. It's one of those games that I understand that will not register with a lot of people, unfortunately. Normally MSRP at $30, that's way too high in my opinion. You can get it in the Mafia trilogy, which is about $60 when on sale, or if you want to go do alternative key sites, you can find the game for about $5 to $6. In my opinion, if you're looking for 20 hours to burn, you like the concept of what I just explained to you, the gameplay looked fine to you, you're okay with dealing with certain bugs, and you think the story of Lincoln Clay and everything that comes along with him being a black man in the late 60s is going to be something that's interesting to you, and the revenge story of going after the Mafia for what they did to him and his friends and loved ones, I would recommend you pick up this game. If none of that sounds interesting to you, well then I would say you probably don't have anything to find here for yourself. But that's going to wrap up today's video. I'm Hat Talk Gaming. Thank you for listening to my review on Mafia 3 Definitive Edition. Let me know any comments or concerns you have, any thoughts or opinions. Have you played the game for yourself? Have I convinced you to play it? Did I convince you to stay away? Let me know any of those things down in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Peace.